Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the America House virtual floor. My name is Lucy Zoria, and I'm the program manager here at America House. And today we're talking about an incredibly fascinating subject. For the very first time in history, this year, Ukraine will take part in the International Warrior Games competition. In honor of that, we've decided to dedicate today's discussion to adaptive sports, the Warrior Games and Invictus Games phenomena, and we'll be hearing it directly from the people involved in these sports competitions and the very important work done to support adaptive sports and to support veterans from all around the world. You have an incredible group of people that work tirelessly to bring these amazing opportunities to life, and that they've come to us from all over America and all over Ukraine as well tonight. Please allow me to introduce our guests. Marsha A.Strawderman. She is the team manager from the US Invictus Games Team, and she is also very involved with the Warrior Games in support of Air Force veterans. Welcome, Marsha.
Hi, it's really good to be here and with America House. I actually got to go to the America House in person last year, so it's good to be here with you virtually.
Welcome back, Marsha. We're so happy to hear and see familiar faces, and I'm sure that all of our guests who were at the incredible event that we did with the Invictus Games are so happy to see you again. We also have another familiar face, Joshua Smith, the co-captain of the US Invictus Games Team and also a member of the Warrior Games Team member from the US.
Hi. Joshua Smith here. It's great, just like Marsha said, to be with you guys. I was with her on that amazing trip that we had in Ukraine last year to visit the America House, and to be there with Team Ukraine was an absolutely unforgettable and amazing experience, and I'm happy to be here today with you as well virtually.
Thank you so much, Joshua. It's so great to see you again. And also we have from the Ukrainian side, members of the team that are working to bring Ukraine to the world stage of the Warrior Games. Please welcome Olha Semenova, a member of the Ukrainian Warrior Games Team Selection Committee, also a psychologist and trauma counselor.
Hi to all. I'm very pleased, and it's an honor for me to serve for this project in Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you, Olga. And also, last but not least, our fourth guest for the night will be Oksana Gorbach, who is the coordinator of the Invictus Games and the Warrior Games in Ukraine. Welcome, Oksana. Oh, I see that Oksana has actually dropped out for a minute, but I'm sure that she'll be back very, very, very soon. And right now, I'm so happy to have all of you here, and I'm going to be asking all of you tonight about different aspects of your work, what it's like to support members of the veteran teams that participate in the Warrior Games and the Invictus Games as well, but also what it's like to be an athlete and what it's like to travel all around the world and talk about these people. I see that Oksana has actually rejoined us. So happy to see you, Oksana. Oksana, please say hello to everyone.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for having me. I'm very happy to be here today. Unfortunately, the connection is not the best at my location, so I do apologize in advance for any breaks in internet connection. Unfortunately, this is the reality of virtual meetings today in our life. I'm very happy to be again speaking from the stage of virtual stage of America House in Kiev. It was amazing opportunity for us to be there for the first time last year with Marsha and Josh, and also other sport ambassadors who came to Ukraine to work with our team, to mentor them, to lead them in adaptive sports, and show them the experience and the example of true leaders, veterans who can actually, inspire and lead by example. So really, really happy to be here today in the same, almost the same group of people and speak to you guys.
Thank you, Oksana. It's honestly a privilege to be able to bring all of you back together, albeit virtually, but we hope that all of you will see each other very, very soon at the next Warrior Games, and we will be talking exactly about that tonight. I just want to remind to our audience that we will be taking questions and comments throughout the session. So if you have any words or you're curious about anything, please drop them into the chat under this stream and our communications team will pass them to me. And I'd love to start out by asking a question to Marsha. So Marsha, could you please tell our audience, so what are the Warrior Games and how did they start?
The Warrior Games, actually, they started in 2010. And it was a Paralympic style event that really highlighted the resiliency of our service members who were using sports as part of their recovery journey. And the first games were held actually exactly 11 years ago, May of 2010, out in Colorado Springs, Colorado, at the United States Olympic Center.
Thank you, Marsha. I see that Jeff Lerner, the program manager for the Warrior Games, has just joined us as well. Hello.
Good morning. Good evening.
Yes, yes. It's great to have you all the way from the US. We've just started talking about what the Warrior Games are. So Jeff, perhaps you could tell us how and when did adaptive sports become an important aspect of veteran rehabilitation in the US?
Well, thanks for inviting me, and thank you for the question. Hey, I love your organization and what you do for the Ukraine and the rest of the European partners. You asked how and when did adaptive sports become an important aspect of veterans rehabilitation? Acknowledging the research proving the therapeutic benefits of activity to the recovery process, our Undersecretary of Defense for Personnel and Readiness approved the use of 2010 funding to implement an adaptive sports and reconditioning program DoD-wide. In 2012, the NDAA, our National Defense Authorization Act, authorized the establishment of a military adaptive sports program for service members who were eligible to participate in adaptive sports because of an injury or wound that was received in the line of duty. A senator during debate about this funding remarked that the committee believes that the adaptive sports program provides vital rehabilitation and support to active duty service members. So since then, Congress has placed funding in the defense budget in the furtherance of its interest in and support for the program. This funding has been really crucial to our program development and has provided resources for acquisition of athletic trainers, coaches, and specialized equipment for our wounded and injured.
Thank you, Jeff. Of course, there must be a massive team effort across so many different organizations to bring adaptive sports to veterans and into public awareness as well. So we've talked a bit about the Warrior Games, which is just one of many adaptive sports competitions in the world. And I was hoping that Oksana, you could take a moment and share with us what are the commonalities and differences between the Warrior Games, which is a new phenomena to Ukraine, and Invictus Games, which Ukraine has already participated in for several years. I see that we've lost Oksana, but oh no, she's back. Hi, Oksana. Did you hear the question?
Yes, yes, I heard the question. I do apologize for the problems with the connection. So actually, Invictus Games has been inspired by Warrior Games. So the story goes back to 2013 when Prince Harry, then single, he went to the United States and you know that he's a military man and he has experience of actually serving in Afghanistan. And I've read actually about his, from his own words, that he was deeply moved, and he was deeply, caring about the wounded warriors. He saw them constantly in Afghanistan, and he was always wondering how could he help them as a person having a platform at which he can actually make change. And I'm not sure how the actual, how he actually found out about Warrior Games, but he went, and I think it was Colorado in 2013. And next year, in 2014, he launched Invictus Games in London. So there are a lot of commonalities, and I think that the format of Invictus Games actually follows the format of Warrior Games in terms of adaptive sports, of course, importance of friends and family in the recovery journey of the wounded warrior. So it is all very similar between Warrior Games and Invictus Games. But of course, there are some differences, like Warrior Games, as far as I know, it goes every year, well, except for the past year, but, nothing was happening last year. So, it's like, the pandemic. But under normal circumstances, as far as I understand, Warrior Games is an annual event, while Invictus Games is going like once per 2 years. And what our competitors like about Warrior Games is there is shooting, which they love. And it was like, before that in Invictus Games, the most popular sport was archery. But now with Warrior Games on the stage, it's definitely shooting, and they love it. And of course, golf, it was the first year, this 2021 year, when we actually tried to do the trials in golf, and it was so much fun. And we had to start the training for the competitors from scratch. And of course, they didn't know how to hold, the thing, the stick. So it was so much fun. It was great, really. So it was for us, Warrior Games introduced new sports like shooting, like golf, and of course team sports, so wheelchair basketball and sitting volleyball. We didn't have national trials in Invictus Games in this team sports in 2019. We were able to have wheelchair basketball trials this year for Warrior Games Team Ukraine, because we have the equipment, and it was actually provided to us by the United States Air Force Wounded Warrior Program, which is led by Marsha. And I think this is a great example of how, this act of support can have a long impact on an entire community of veterans in Ukraine, because now we have a new team sport, and it was exciting. Of course, the national trials in wheelchair basketball in Ukraine was met with a lot of interest from veteran community, a lot of people who were just coming and trying to do what they could with the wheelchairs. And it was so much fun. It was so exciting to see them like being first time on this chair and not sure what to do with it, but still doing it. And actually, doing good, really. So having a lot of fun and doing good on that. So it was fantastic. For us as Ukrainian Organizing Committee, Invictus Games and Warrior Games are two projects which can together help wounded warriors of Ukraine to get sport rehabilitation, while Invictus Games for us is more focused on a rehabilitation effect of sport. Warrior Games is more competitive, and it feels like more sport-oriented event, which is also important for veterans, to be able to, be out there and show themselves on stage, on sports stage. So I'm very happy that we have now the opportunity to provide our wounded warriors with two different international events, and they have this opportunity to just be in sport and be active.
Thank you so much, Oksana, for sharing this overview, but also sharing your personal experience. It must be incredibly inspiring to travel with the team and see their development and how they're able to reach new heights. Jeff, I'm also curious to hear if you could please share, as program manager, you're responsible for securing resources and also figuring out policy, things like this. So, and you've been with the Warrior Games for quite a long time. Could you please share how they have changed over the years, perhaps a shift of focus, and what, in your opinion, does the future of adaptive sports look like?
Well, let me address your two-part question by answering the second part of it first. The future of adaptive sports in the U.S. And the world. I see with the increase in the number of people that have life-changing wounds, illnesses, and injuries, that drives the demand for a program of therapeutic recreation and community-based adaptive sports programs. During the 1950s and the 60s, sports and recreation programs were essential modalities of rehabilitation, and they were, this is an interesting fact, that they were critical to the programs for veterans who were coming out of Vietnam. And fortunately, the US government and our communities recognize that value and the importance of adaptive sports. And they have increased funding to aid adaptive recreation and sports programs across the US. We too have increased funding in our programs to support our service members in rehabilitation through adaptive sports, and we don't see any let up in the interest or the benefits, any change in the opinion that the benefits that sport can have on one's recovery, not only physical, but holistically as well. So, I think sports diplomacy, so the future here, sports diplomacy, I think has emerged as an integral part of efforts to build ever-strengthening relationships between nations. Sports diplomacy uses the universal passion for sports that actually transcends language and cultural differences and brings people together. And this is evident in games like the Warrior Games and the Invictus Games. So participation in these types of sports teaches leadership, teamwork, communication skills that help people succeed in all areas of their lives. And I can envision a global expansion of goodwill and diplomacy through sport that can be achieved by leveraging the power, influence, and respect of the Invictus Games Foundation, for example, and organizations like the America House to build closer relationships that increase that dialogue and cultural understanding between our nations.
Thank you, Jeff. That's an incredibly important point regarding sports diplomacy. I just know that meeting members of the Invictus Games teams like Marsha and Joshua in the past have been such a treat for our audience here in Kiev. And in general, adaptive sports are such an important topic for Ukraine, considering our years and all of our veterans that do need support following difficult experiences. So we do hope that the popularity, not only for participants, but also for viewers and audiences that support these sporting events, will definitely grow with the coming years. And we know that Ukraine in particular is actually one of the leaders in adaptive sports in the Paralympic Games, and also have shown great results in the Invictus Games as well. And Oksana, I have maybe a bit of a self-serving question. Oksana, what do you think makes Ukrainians so great at adaptive sports?
Well, I have an opinion that Ukraine is not so great in adaptive sports, really. So I have to counter your your point here in a way that, of course, we have certain successes by our Paralympic team on Paralympic stage, and it is great. I totally support the success of Paralympic team, but when I personally started working with adaptive sports in Ukraine, I figured out that there are a lot of shortages in equipment, in infrastructure, training, coaches, which is kind of limiting for the injuries, for the wounded warriors with those injuries that they have. We have a lot of guys and girls with amputations of legs or arms on wheelchairs with different levels of mobility deficiencies, you know. So we need to be able to provide them with a lot of options, you know, so that they are able to choose what best fits their needs and also what best fits their, you know, internal desires, like what they want to do actually in sport. And when we actually started doing this in 2016, and the first national trials in Invictus Games was in 2017, there was not so many options for people with disabilities like wheelchair users or leg or high leg amputations, that kind of things. So it was difficult for us in that 2017 to provide them with many options. So we only had national trials in, I think, 6 sports back in 2017. But this year, in 2021, we had 11 sports which were provided, you know, as an opportunity, as an option for our wounded veterans to participate in 11, and we were able to host them simultaneously at several venues. And I think the biggest achievement was actual team sport. It was the first national trial for wounded warriors, for Warrior Games Team Ukraine, when we were able to actually host national trials in team sports, sitting volleyball and wheelchair basketball. And we were able to do this because, you know, over the past 5 years, there were some changes, positive changes in infrastructure, which is accessible for wheelchair users. We also were able to, you know, get support from Invictus nations, particularly from the United States. Marsha, who actually was there during the, I think, 2019 meeting of project managers in London, when I actually asked all the team managers for help because we needed coaches in sitting volleyball and wheelchair. I think it was sitting handbike cycling and other sports, adaptive sports, that we didn't have coaches with these sports. And actually Marsha was very first to get back to me and say, we actually can help you. I think we can help you. And that when we started this long process, which actually resulted in what we have today, national trials in wheelchair basketball, national trials in sitting volleyball, wheelchair racing, handbike cycling. That is what we had, because we had not only the equipment like wheelchair, the chairs for wheelchair basketball, but we also had sport ambassadors who came with them and actually taught us to use it. And also they inspired us to be better, you know, to strive for better. And we also had coaches in wheelchair basketball and sitting volleyball and others who actually came to Ukraine and helped us and actually improved what we knew about adaptive sports. And we actually opened up so much our horizons, like what we actually thought was possible within adaptive sports. So it was huge, really. So I think that we have a long way to go, really, in terms of adaptive sports, in a way that is not medal, you know, result in medals. But I think we have a long way to go in terms of adapting the sports that we have in Ukraine for the needs of people with different various types of injuries. We need to be aware that there is not one single swimming pool in Ukraine that is fully accessible, not one. I think it is going to be built in Mariupol in eastern Ukraine But at the moment, we just don't have it. We don't have accessible swimming pool, you know, and basically sport infrastructure is not so accessible in Ukraine. So if you're a wheelchair user, it's probably very difficult for you to get into any gym or swimming pool or whatever other sport infrastructure is out there. But we are working on it, and we actually see the problem, and we actually work with the Ministry of Veteran Affairs, the Ministry of Sports, of other government officials to actually change that and make sure that we have adaptive sports that are accessible, available, you know, open to people with different injuries, not just those who have very, you know, narrow type of injuries that, you know, is relatively easy to deal with. But I'm talking about difficult injuries, which we need to actually, you know, be aware of, to recognize, and to build infrastructure, build capacity in Ukraine to meet the needs of people with those injuries that are, you know, unique in a way. But we need to be able to actually provide them with an opportunity to actually be active in sport and take advantage of sport rehabilitation.
Thank you, Oksana, for highlighting not only the challenges, but also the positive dynamics that we're seeing. And of course, highlighting the support that we get from our partners. I would actually love to go to Marsha next, seeing as you have been involved with both Invictus Games and Warrior Games for so long, and you've also helped the Ukrainian teams so much. So, say that there are more resources and opportunities available these days, and awareness, of course.
I've been fortunate to be involved in this space since 2011, and I've absolutely saw awareness grow. I mean, I remember when Prince Harry came to the games in 2013, and he created quite a frenzy there. And then, you know, through his inspiration to bring this to the international stage, he absolutely created awareness that also drove more resources. You know, that's kind of how that happened for us. And I can look back and kind of see where we were and how we started, and you know, take where we were and then try to help others get to where we are today. So we're fortunate that, you know, this is mandated by law, and the resources are there for us. So we're very fortunate to have support from our Department of Defense leadership teams, from the leaders across all of our services, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, who support this because they see the healing power of sport. And we get to witness that, you know, and our goal for our program is really, we would like to help our service members return to duty. Like, if something happens, you know, we've invested a lot of time and money, let's help them return to duty. But if we can't, you know, we're going to help them transition into their community. And sports has really provided a platform to help us do that.
Thank you, Marsha. It's so great to hear the experience of a person who's been involved in all of this for such a long time. I also wanted to ask you about the specific unique trait of the Warrior Games, that each international team that is entering the games needs to have a mentor, and you are the mentor for the Ukrainian team. So could you please share, how did this concept come together and evolve, and what does your work entail?
Yeah, I will say that when we got the adaptive sports program mission, and we were trying to figure it out for our service, for the Air Force, the foundation of our success is our warriors like Josh Smith, who use sports as part of his recovery, and then sharing it with others, setting that example, you know. So that's really how the first mentorship piece started for us. And it's really a foundation to the team that you'll see, that Team Ukraine will see at Warrior Games, and what it looks like, but more importantly, what that feels like. And that mentor relationship, you know, transcends across team managers, team staff. And so that is really how it happened. That's the why. You know, how it happened is a little bit different story. You know, I first met Oksana in 2017. I knew she was the Ukraine team manager. She was very, very passionate and professional and polished, representing your country. I mean, you all should be so proud of her. And then I saw her again in 2018, but she talked about the meeting in 2019. So all the team managers had come to the table, we're there in London and we're going to have a meeting. Everything happens for a reason. And Oksana was running a little bit late. So when she entered the room, there was no chair for her. So I slid to the side and put a chair and she sat down. And I'll always get emotional about this when I get ready to say this part, but as she shared the challenges of your country, there was something inside me that said, oh my gosh, we can do this. Like, we can help. I'm like, I know we can get coaches. They don't have sport equipment. We have sport equipment. I've got mentors. And so we really just started that coordination that led to our relationship that is today, and that mentor relationship that we have. And then, just learning lessons and sitting down and talking, with her at great lengths while we were there to tell her, kind of where we were, and I could kind of see ourselves in the mirror. Like, this is kind of where I was. So that was really how this whole mentor relationship began.
Marsha, thank you so much. I can really feel your passion coming across through the screen. And I know that we are so lucky to have Oksana, but also so lucky to have you advocating and really helping everyone along the way. And I know that very soon the Warrior Games team for Ukraine will actually be selected. And I wanted to talk with Olha Semenova a bit about this, because she is a member of the selection committee and is actually the author of the methodology that they use. So Olha, please tell us, what are you looking in an athlete for Warrior Games?
I would like to add that it's not only me, all our team created the system, and I probably will talk about it later. In addition to sport results, that they are also matter, and as we know, in the Warrior Games, it's a real sport competitions. So we look for sport results as well. We're looking for the next three things. It's the attitude, the approach of the participants, the sport ethics, and the rehabilitation effect. I mean, which effect from the point of view of rehabilitation, psychological and social, the candidates will receive from participation in Warrior Games and in training process as well. I mean, how participation, for example, in Warrior Games or Invictus Games will help their recovery, will support that process. As we talk about sport ethics, we mean that the participants and the candidates in the team should demonstrate their potential to be an example, a role model for others, behave proactively with dignity and fairness during sports competitions on the field and outside the field in relations with others. And we talk about the attitude, in dedication, in discipline, the support of other participants, the responsibility for your own and their common result as well, the desire to be fully involved in the work of the team, in implementing adaptive sports to themselves and to others, to share their goals and the purpose of the project in general. And the will to be a team player as well. All those features and indicators we're looking in our candidates for the national team.
Mm. So it's much more than just those who show the best.
Who take the first three places, and medals, for sure.
That's so great to hear. And I'm so fascinated to see the final team, because it looks like you're really looking for strong personalities that would also help raise awareness and bring new people into the fold of adaptive sports. Olga, please tell me, so I know that the structure for the teams is quite different for the Warrior Games and the Invictus Games. So what does the selection process actually look like?
Mm-hmm. As I mentioned before, our team created a complete system of such kind of evaluation process of participants due to the specific situation here in Ukraine with our veterans and current servicemen. We have a lack of complete, full information from different sources, from social to medical information about our candidates. And it's not full and usually does not reflect the current state, the current status of the participants. So our goal was to create the system that would probably maximize the objectivity and create or close all that holes in information during the selection. And the idea and the purpose of the system is to give the chance to participate in the team to anyone who really needs that. So it should be a fair, understandable, and quite easy system available for everyone who just have a will or who have an idea to take part. In additional information is provided from different sources, from various parties, including the participants themselves that share his information with us. And the final decision of the selection process is made by the independent selection committee, consisting of representatives of all military authorities and veteran communities, state bodies, and non-governmental organizations who are organizing these games here in Ukraine. So we made such a selection process from different stages. We collect some specific data from the participants. They do some tests, screenings, questionnaires, and we use such valid international screenings that also used, as I know, also in US. We also do the interview, the military psychologists and the veterans and the assistants to understand more deeply the motivation of each candidate. And we also track their behavior to see the sport ethics in practice on the field of competitions. So we collect all this data, put it in we just excel in some math statistics, and in the end we have some list of the candidates who have high motivation or different motivation with all their indicators that we bring to committee, and they make the final decision.
Thank you so much, Olga. Sounds like a very scientific approach, I would say, very thorough.
Not just time and distance, huh, Olga?
Yeah.
I also wanted to ask Oksana, maybe you could expand a little bit on the difference between the process for the Invictus Games and the Warrior Games.
We actually follows the same process. Of course, the games are different, but the process is pretty much the same. So, however, in Invictus Games, we do have what we call testing. So what it is a kind of a road show that we bring adaptive sports to local communities. So what we do in Invictus Games is that at least 3 to, 5 months prior the actual national trials, we actually bring, it's a kind of a road show, Invictus Games to the local communities in eastern or western and southern Ukraine. And what we do is actually we say, if you want to come, please do come. And if you never did any sports, just come anyways. And you can try everything, all the sports available here at this location. And we tell them more about Invictus Games. We have, of course, coaches on the venue, so they can actually teach them to, throw a shot put or row on a concept, that kind of thing. So, and after those, what we call testings, we have national trials normally held in Kiev, where, all the candidates, people who want to be part of their teams, they need to go through the national trials. And also what we do is we actually interview all the candidates who want to be part of the team. So psychologist actually has an interview with each candidate. So if we have 200, we have 200 interviews. If we have 300, we have 300 interviews. And then there is a huge job done by psychologists actually analyzing the response. So they actually have the system of analyzing the level of motivation, the rehabilitation effect, and all the other components to actually have a view on an athlete, have a view on a candidate. Why he is for Invictus Games and why, how can Invictus Games help them? So in Invictus Games, the most important criteria is the rehabilitation effect. So this is like the most important. So the sport result is like only 10% in the overall evaluation of the athlete, while rehabilitation effect is like 40%. So so this is the specifics of this particular process for Invictus Games. While in Warrior Games, it's pretty much the same, just we don't have testing this year. We just didn't have time, but we had national trials, we had interviews, psychologists had interviews with each candidate, and there is a huge analysis done by psychologists to actually get all the information together and provide selection committee with the information. So who are these candidates? What are they? Why are they here? What is their motivation? How they are driven by sport, how sport will help them recover, and how can we actually as a project help them recover. So this is not an easy, process to select team members, neither for Invictus or Warrior Games. It's actually quite challenging.
Thank you, Oksana. Everyone, I guess, watching us in Ukraine can keep an eye out for the road shows that you're doing. And I would encourage you to encourage people that you know to apply, because as you can see, it's not necessary to be super great at a particular sport. You will learn along the way. And the most important thing is your spirit. I have just one last question to Olga before we go and talk to Joshua finally. Olga, can you please share? So the team is almost chosen, and what will happen next? How do they train for the Warrior Games? Is it individual or kind of group sessions? What does that look like?
Yeah, we have also complex system of training for them and planned a few training camps before the departure to the US this autumn. It consists from specific trainings and individual program for each participant, and a common program for group kind of sports. And also the team will regularly, constantly, work with the psychologists in the format of individual and group counseling. And in addition, if necessary, we provide family counseling. So that's kind of a complex program of preparing for that.
Olga, you have me convinced that our team is in incredibly good hands, and they will be very well prepared by the time they get to the Warrior Games. Thank you so much for sharing these kind of insights and how everything is organized. And I want to go next to Josh. So did that process sound familiar? Is that something that your team goes through in preparation on your end?
Yes, exactly. I mean, all those points are exactly how Marsha and her staff handle things here in the States for us when it comes to selecting our Air Force Warrior team. It is not just about that individual who can perform and compete very well at a high level in adaptive sports, but it's that all-encompassing package of the individual's, character, how they represent the Air Force, how they're going to represent the Air Force Warrior team when they go to the Warrior Games. Being that team player, being somebody who's going to uplift and inspire others. And Marsha is really good with, teaching and instructing all of us when we get enrolled in the program about these things, that it's not just about going there and competing and trying to win a medal, but it's that overall package of being there for each other as an Air Force family, how we're there to inspire and uplift also the other services and the other countries that are involved when it comes to a Warrior Game level. And just being able to take that and to be a coach and a mentor and an ambassador to newcomers who come into the program and also into the community and throughout the entire United States, where we're able to have an impact to educate and advocate people about the impact, the positive impact that the healing and power of adaptive sports have for us as service members and veterans and our families.
Thank you, Josh. It's so fascinating also to hear how you work. And I was wondering, as co-captain, you're managing all of these teams, co-captain of the Invictus Games specifically. So I was just curious to hear, what's your leadership philosophy? How do you balance all of these aspects of preparation for the games and the competition?
Okay, so for me personally, first and foremost, I obviously want to be an example, a positive, uplifting person and individual for for my teammates and for our Air Force program, obviously for Team US, being that individual who's going to bring a team together, where we're huddled up before competition, we're giving each other high fives, we're able to communicate and associate with each other, build those bonds and relationships and that camaraderie as a team. And then another aspect is, if I'm not competing, then I'm out at another event watching my teammates compete, and I'm cheering them on and I'm encouraging them. And also being that representative of our program, but being a representative of, my family, the name that I bear, the total package is the way I look at it. And also being somebody who's going to be there, like I said earlier, to be that mentor and that ambassador, and to help support and educate others, as well as being a leader and a captain for getting out there and interacting with other services in other countries, so that we can have that international camaraderie where we're able to come together. I mean, being a part of Marsha and Oksana's Invictus Unites last year when we came to the Ukraine was such an amazing experience for us. And hopefully that started something. When we go to Invictus Games next spring, that initiates other countries getting involved with each other and doing the same thing, being able to see what Team Ukraine and Team US have done together, especially for Oksana, talking about, where their program was at a low level, where they didn't have funding and equipment, and for Marsha to step in with our program, and for us to come and visit and to give support, to help mentor and ambassador what it means to be involved with team sports, and to bringing basketball wheelchairs to the Ukraine, so that you guys can be involved with that in the next Invictus Games, and also with the Warrior Games coming up. So I'm extremely grateful and blessed for all the opportunities that the Wounded Warrior program has provided for me. But the impact that we can have on others besides just ourselves truly shows the impact and power that come from the healing and rehabilitation with adaptive sports, but also the relationships and the camaraderie that comes about with all of us as we interact and associate with each other, which those things are even more crucial and vital than stepping on that starting line and competing. As awesome and as amazing as that experience is, and for someone like me who is extremely competitive, and I like to get out there on the court, and I like to get on that starting line, and I want to perform and do the best that I can for myself and my team and my service and my country, but those long-lasting relationships and the impact that we make on others is truly the biggest difference that matters.
Joshua, it's so inspiring to hear you talk about how participating has impacted you personally, and also seeing and supporting your team members. I truly hope that for people who are watching, it will inspire them to encourage others to take part in this life-changing experience, as I can see, as it has been for you and for so many others as well.
Thank you.
You mentioned that you were very competitive, and I saw the list of categories that you will be competing in the upcoming Invictus Games, and it has cycling, indoor rowing, athletics, powerlifting. Tell me, were you always into sports, or is this something that came later in life?
So I've actually always, from a very young age, I was involved with sports growing up. My parents put me in sports programs. So I've competed in sports my entire life. And then obviously joining the military, being, physically fit and active during my active duty days. That was just something that was a part of my life for so long, ever since I was young. And so when I went through my wounds, illnesses, and injuries, and my military career was altered, that was a little bit of a low point for me, to have some of those things physically and sport-wise taken away. And at that time, back in 2016, I didn't even know what adaptive sports were. I'd never seen the Paralympics. I'd never heard of the Warrior Games, the Wounded Warrior programs, Invictus Games. I didn't even know what they were. And I had a friend of mine who just talked to me a little bit about the program. And lucky enough, where I was stationed, we had a recovery care coordinator, and I was able to sit down and make an appointment with him. And my wife and I went in and met with him, and he just explained the whole entire program to us. And a couple weeks later, I was signed up for my first Air Force Wounded Warrior Care event in Florida. And I went, and I've been involved with the program ever since then. And it's really helped me on that healing and recovery journey through what I've been through personally, to have amazing experiences where part of your life is taken away and you get involved with a program, especially with a program like Marsha runs and how she takes care of people, is extremely amazing, because you're put into this program, everybody becomes a family, and the staff, the trainers, being involved with the adaptive sports, everybody is so selfless when it comes to serving those who have been wounded, ill, and injured. And anybody that works with Marsha's staff, that is how they are. That's what she expects and demands from her people. And that is just something that just kind of trickles down to those of us as service members and veterans who get involved with the program. And it really, for me personally, okay, I've been blessed with this opportunity and experience. Now I want to take that, because I feel obligated that it's one of those things I need to do to share how important and impactful it's been for my life to those who come into the program and follow me, and then to share that in my local community and with others when we go to the Warrior Games and when we go to the Invictus Games, how important and impactful it is.
I understand. We have a nice comment from Max Alexeyev that he's very proud of you, bro. And I think that this
Thanks.
is a sentiment that so many of us share, honestly, hearing your journey. And it's also a joy to, it was a journey that you didn't go through alone, that you had people like Marsha next to you and the support of the entire team. Ooh, I'm getting a little bit of goosebumps, honestly. It's just so beautiful, inspiring to hear. I actually wanted to ask you and Marsha both, seeing as that your role is so much of support, and we have so many people in Ukraine that have been impacted by the events of the previous years, warriors, but also their families. Could you share just some insights on how each and every one of us can support people that are going through these difficult times and adjusting to new realities?
I'll go first, Josh, and then you can add to that. I will say what I've learned in doing this job, and really, working with our wounded, ill, and injured community and their families, is we need to meet our warriors and their families and their caregivers where they are. We need to, it's very personalized. Everybody has a different recovery journey. This is not a cookie cutter checklist, program, and you can't establish one that's going to be successful. And to the extent possible, you need to learn how to meet them where they are, and then really set that foundation of, okay, we all go through things, but what are we going to do from that? How are we going to bounce forward? How are we going to help others so that, you can help them in their journeys? And I think that, and then we don't always win, we don't in this job and in this business, but we can always care. And so I think if you keep care at the foundation of, whatever you develop, and our program's motto is to care beyond duty. And so when you really think about that, I'm retired from the Air Force, and, the duty and the mission was number one, but caring for your people has to come before that, because it won't get done unless you do that first. So I think that that's our approach. And that is the success that you see across our team. And then, spreading that to our international partners and, on to Team Ukraine. And it's an honor to just be able to do that.
Well, it's tough to follow up those words with Marsha, but I would say to add to what Marsha said, one of the biggest impacts that I really love about our Air Force Wounded Warrior program, and what I've seen being a competitive athlete, participating in Warrior Games and previously with Team US at the Invictus Game, is the importance of the family and friends program, because not just us individually as the service member or the veteran who has suffered those wounds, illnesses, and injuries, but our caregivers, our spouses, our kids, our families, they've been impacted by that as well, because the family is part of that military journey with us. And so to see how our Air Force Wounded Warrior program and how Marsha's staff, how they take the responsibility of ensuring that family and friends are taken care of when we go to events, when we go to the games, and to see the impact that it has on that here in the States for Warrior Games, and on that international level when we speak Invictus Games, when all the family and friends come together and they get to know each other, and your spouses and caregivers get to share their stories of what they've experienced on their military journey with their service member. And to be a part of that community really helps us to be able to go out and spread the message, because now our families and our friends know about it, and they're able to share what they personally go through as the non-service member within our local communities, and also on an international level. And to have that camaraderie with other family members who they can feel that same thing. They have that special connection, just like we do as the service member or veteran who's been injured can with our teammates or those that we compete against. Our families and friends are able to be involved with each other and have an impact overall internationally as well.
It's so, I myself, and I'm sure that everyone is so thankful for you being so open about all of these things and just sharing what it takes to go through these difficult experiences, and that it is possible, and to see a new path going forward, anything that life throws at you. This has been an incredible event. We're just going to be wrapping up in a moment or so. And I guess my last question to all of you, if you would like to comment, what are some of your hopes for the future of adaptive sports, and perhaps some words of encouragement to anyone that will come across our paths? And perhaps Oksana, you would like to go first, as you've seen so many who've been impacted by the work.
I think that my hopes would be to have more wounded warriors, veterans of Ukraine engaged directly, leading, inspiring other veterans to be, better versions of themselves, or, just to help them, in those first steps in their recovery journey. I believe that what we saw with Sport Ambassadors Program, United States Air Force, Wounded Warrior Sport Ambassador Programs, and Josh is one of Sport Ambassadors who actually came to Ukraine, is that the power of example, the power of, a person who went through this similar experience and can actually understand you at the deeper levels, which speak to your soul, probably to some inner, and get through all the barriers that we sometimes feel are out there. And it was so inspiring to see how easy it was for sport ambassadors from the United States to speak with our team members without actually knowing the language. They very few team members speak English, but it didn't make the contact any difficult. It was a contact spiritual. I don't know how else to call it, really. I mean, it was absolutely amazing to look at, and I saw that this is something that is absolutely unbelievable, and we need it in Ukraine. So that is what I hope for. And actually, the program that we saw, Sport Ambassadors Program, inspired us to do, to start doing that in Ukraine. So we actually started our first steps in making Sport Ambassador Program in Ukraine, with Invictus Games team members, those people who actually met Josh and Marsha and other sport ambassadors, and those who actually saw the impact that was made on them individually, and who want to do a similar impact on their local communities. So we're starting our first steps in this direction, and I hope to see more of that. And I'm quite sure it's going to be a success, and it's something that our veteran community needs, to have more leaders like Josh in Ukraine, more leaders like us as sport ambassadors, inspiring them and leading them by their own example.
Thank you, Oksana. All of us appreciate your work so much. And we wish you all of the best in all of the upcoming projects. And I wanted to ask, perhaps, Jeff, you would like to share just a few words.
Yeah, certainly. Thanks for that. To add to what Oksana said, you know, I've been involved with these games and adaptive sport.
I think we just lost Jeff, unfortunately. I don't know if he'll be able to reconnect, but if he does, we'll definitely ask him to speak. We're getting a comment from Pavlo Luchki that it's an honor to be invited to the Warrior Games. And also that it's great to see Marsha smiling. I think that you probably have worked together in the past. And I'll just give Marsha the opportunity to say a few last words during this time.
So thank you so much. Like, I wish I could somehow put into words how excited I am that the Ukraine's coming to Warrior Games. That was a dream, you know, and it's now going to be a reality. And we're going to be right by your side. Don't worry, sport equipment, we've got you. Anything you need in the planning, we got you. More importantly, I promise you that the spirit that we bring and the support we bring to our Air Force team, we're going to bring it to Team Ukraine. We're going to stand there when you all get on the competition line and wave your country's flag with you. And beyond that, we're going to work hard at making sure that we can further grow our Invictus Unite effort and to help more international partners and specifically Team Ukraine know that we're always going to be here. You will walk this journey by your side and continue to share our lessons learned with all of you.
Thank you, Marsha. Oh, we're in such good hands. I'm absolutely sure of this. Olga, any words of encouragement to our future Warrior Games team?
Yeah, thank you. I'm so excited to hear all those kind of words, especially from Marsha. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I truly believe, yeah, that the adaptive sports will break all the limits for resilience, for recovering, for rehabilitation. And I hope that participation and developing of those projects in Ukraine will bring the hope to all our current servicemen and servicewomen and veteran community, bring the hope that the recovery is possible, it's available, and will help for them to develop the narrative of their new, better life after the service. That's it.
Inspiring words. Thank you so much, Olga. And Joshua, you're welcome to say a few words if you want.
Okay. Well, I would say just in closing, you know, being able, those of us that have been involved with the program as a wounded warrior and as a competitive athlete and have had these opportunities and experiences, for me, it's the importance of sharing our story and our journey with others. And hopefully that can have an impact on somebody who's really struggling at this particular time when we share that story or journey and what we've been through, and that it's able to impact their lives in a positive way where it can get them up off the couch, it can get them out of their house, they can get out, like Jeff spoke about earlier, about the importance of recreation and the impact that adaptive sports have. And those things are able to help us overcome any type of adversity and challenges that we go through. They help us learn what it means to be resilient and to persevere through challenges and obstacles, and that no matter who you are, we all can overcome those with our families, with our caregivers and spouses, with our Wounded Warrior programs, with those all around us to help lift us up. So for me, it's about sharing and spreading that message and having a positive impact on others who specifically are struggling on their journey at this time, and hopefully that can have that impact for them and they're able to improve and overcome the healing and recovery process that they go through.
Thank you, Joshua. We actually have a comment from the audience to support your words of this being such an incredible team effort that supports so many people. Yaroslava Matvienko is writing that being a volunteer of the Invictus Games from the very beginning, it is a great joy to see the progress of the Games and its participants. With gratefulness to our American brothers and sisters in RAMS for their support and help. So thank you so much for supporting our journey and the journey of each individual that comes across your path. It is so appreciated and it is so seen. And I think that I speak for all of us in Ukraine that we look forward to this incredible journey and supporting the Warrior Games team members that we will find out very soon who they are next week. And thank you again for joining this discussion with me and sharing your sincerity and your experience. I truly hope that this was an interesting and inspiring discussion for those watching, and that they will pass the word along to those who haven't heard of the Warrior Games and the Invictus Games and the opportunities that it provides to wounded warriors and to their families and friends. So thank you all again for joining us. I wish all of you a great night, and we'll see you soon. And support the Ukrainian and American teams at the upcoming games. Have a great night, everyone. Bye.